world. Welcome back to Radically Transparent, where I am diving into social engagement data and how we can really gain a 360 view of your customers using it. Last week, I introduced you to why and what you see in marketing automation when it comes to social engagement data and why social is actually the missing entity. We also walk through what we're actually missing from the digital journey or the digital footprint. I walked through the buyer journey, and we confirmed that social media, which has been named the third largest engagement channel behind web page visits and email opens, is simply missing from the data we are able to collect in marketing automation alone. So yes, of course, with Oktopost, we solved that. And today I am continuing the conversation and zooming in on how you can actually use your social engagement data inside of your marketing automation. So whether that is HubSpot, Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, Acton, whatever technology you may be using for marketing automation, and how you can go ahead and use it, right? Because if you don't know what to do with all of this great social engagement data, what on earth is the point of collecting it in the first place? So are we ready to get radically transparent about lead scoring today as one of the examples and ways we can go ahead and actually incorporate social engagement data into our lead scoring models? All right. Long gone are the days. We know this. We spoke about it last week, where you garner a lead and it automatically, you pass it to sales. With less than 25% of leads being sales ready when they first come in, how do we as marketers know when it's time for a sales rep to contact them? And at what point are we saying that this lead is sales ready? Well, as a marketeer, right, I spend a great deal of time and resources trying to answer these questions. And something that I see works well is when we incorporate lead scoring into understanding when a lead is sales ready, right? So with lead scoring, we can identify which leads can be pushed to sales and which are going to require future and further nurturing. Now, lead scoring is not necessarily a marketing only methodology. It's often a shared process for marketing and sales practitioners. We know it's vital to help top line revenue growth. And we also know both teams need to work together to use scoring as a way to prioritize leads based on where they are in the buyer circle and if they're even fit for your business in the first place. And when it comes to scoring, I think it's important to call out that scoring systems can be implemented using numbering, right? So, maybe a lead that's coming from LinkedIn, you want to give them 5 points or 15 points because we know LinkedIn is, a high engagement channel. Or we can use terminology like cold and warm and hot to signal, where this lead is in the buyer journey. And the more data that marketing and sales, right, the more data that we can actually have on the leads and prospects, the easier our job becomes and the more clarity that we are going to be able to understand of these lead sales readiness. Now, according to Marketo, a 10% increase in lead quality can actually translate into a 40% increase in sales productivity. I'm going to say that again, right? According to Marketo, a 10% increase in lead quality can translate into a 40% increase in sales productivity. So when using marketing automation and thinking through all of your touch points when it comes to social, right? Incoming leads can essentially be used to score with 3 basic parameters. We have, your demographics and firmographics. So do your leads seem like a good customer fit based on their location or company size or industry? The closer the prospect is to your ideal customer, right, the more likely they're going to close. That's a good thing. And then perhaps a higher score is assigned. Interest, right? If the lead is consistently downloading content, viewing webinars, or asking for a product demo, that's a pretty high interest level in your company and most likely should be receiving a high score. Hence, right, they're more likely to buy your product or your service. And buying stage, right, that's a big one. And it's definitely important to assess at what stage of the buyer cycle is that lead. And right, with some companies, it may not be in the position to make a purchasing decision yet, but eventually will be, right? You may want to send those over to nurturing and maybe they get a specific score of their own. But one thing missing from those, what I would call three basic parameters, and I kind of touched on it earlier, is the use of social engagement data, right? And I would argue that there actually should be four basic parameters: demographics, interest, buying stage, and social engagement data or social engagements. There's more to lead scoring, right? Than what we originally went on to say. And I think to properly determine in today's day and age a lead's level of sales readiness, it's important to understand their need for your product or service. And for that, you kind of need to lean away from, demographics, interest, and buying stage, and you need to zoom in behavioral data, I'll call it. And I think behavioral data, I think in a marketing, right, we're all data driven and it's a little bit sometimes more complicated to measure because it's complex. There's multidimensional concepts to decipher. It's not a black and white measurement. And every second, buyers are essentially Googling, clicking, downloading, watching content. So, how do you evaluate the importance of relevance of different kinds of behavior? And I think most of us, we will score emails, we will score website behavior as being highly relevant for, if someone fills out a form or clicks on an email or downloads a white paper. However, this type of activity is really only one dimension of behavior. And just because someone's filling out a form, right, we might need more information to understand where we need to place this lead or how we can score. Right. So it may inform you of how qualified a prospect is, but it's not necessarily going to tell you the full picture of where they are in the buying cycle. And that's important to us. This is where social media comes in, right? So there's a really popular report, Marketo's Engagement Economy Report. And in that report, it stated that 35% of customer engagement happens on social media. That should surprise nobody. The added benefit, right, of social intent data is that it actually offers a whole new dimension of lead behavior that can greatly improve your lead scoring model. So let's take a look. I want to give some ideas and some use cases because, again, if we can talk about it all day, but if we don't actually understand how to use it and where to use it, what's the point? So scoring leads based on social network. When scoring leads based on social behavior, the first option is social networks, right? Which social networks are leads coming from? And more importantly, on which channel are they most engaged? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? And with buyers conducting their own research and engaging with your brand on multiple social networks, it's really critical to understand this complex picture to increase the accuracy, right, of the sales qualification process. To go back to answer, like, at what point should a sales rep reach out? At what point is a lead sales ready? So I'd say traditionally, B2B marketers have been accrediting LinkedIn as the king of lead generation. And it makes sense. And in that, right, there was a recent analysis that we actually ran on Oktopost, and we conducted it on over 100,000 social posts. And what we actually found was that 80% of B2B leads did come from LinkedIn, followed by Twitter at 13%, Facebook by 7%. And so that's pretty interesting, right? So, and additionally, 43% of B2B marketers reported sourcing a customer from LinkedIn. So all arrows point to LinkedIn being still the king of lead generation. So while LinkedIn is still appearing to be the leader as a power tool for lead gen, I think what works for some companies may not necessarily work for all companies. And I think that's true for all social media, right? There is no social playbook. It's dynamic, and what works well for one isn't going to translate and work well for another. Therefore, right, I think giving every lead that comes from LinkedIn, for example, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, let's say 20 points as a lead score, and let's say a lead that comes from Facebook and Twitter, 5 points, it's the easy way out, but it's not necessarily the smartest solution, right? So if you think through it a step more, let's say you're taking more social engagement data. Let's say someone likes a post or maybe comments on a post, right? you can actually discover that maybe majority of the sales ready leads that are clicking your Facebook post before requesting a demo, right? Perhaps based on this data, you would deduct that Facebook leads are more inclined to find solutions in your space. And then given this information, right, you could actually weigh them a little bit more in the scoring algorithm compared to LinkedIn or Twitter. I'd say another component would be scoring leads based on content topics and types. So lead quality and sales readiness can't really be determined by social network alone that your leads are engaging with. You have to take other social behaviors into consideration, right? So what is the content topics that they're engaging with? What are the type of pieces of content that drove leads to actually click and then lead to a convert? So I don't know, let's say single discipline versus multidiscipline behavior. So, in other words, someone who is constantly engaging with the same topic over and over again, or engaging with the same type of content on social over and over again, may be looking for a specific solution that you offer. On the other hand, someone who's viewing and interacting with a combination of topics may be looking at a broad spectrum of solutions. And as such, right, it would be more difficult for you to determine their current level of interest or customer fit. And so, given this knowledge, it would make sense, in my opinion, right, to increase a prospect's score if they engage in single disciplinary behavior as opposed to decreasing their score if they engage in multidiscipline behavior. I also think buying stage is an interesting one to score on because a lead's behavior with your brand content, it usually does reflect their buyer stage. And it's fascinating, right? Because when you're scoring for buyer stage, it helps determine whether a buyer is within the sales cycle. Namely, right, are they engaging with top, middle, or bottom of the funnel content? And that's really easy to see. Like as marketers, we know what's tofu, mofu, and bofu, right? And we can essentially understand from the social engagement data what our audience is engaging with, what type of content, and then increase or decrease scores according to the lead's buyer stage. So if leads are engaging on social media with product demos or customer case studies, right, that should be attached maybe a higher lead score than leads that are just engaging with blog articles. And this ensures, right, that only quality leads are being fast tracked to sales, which again, right, we will be hailed as heroes when this happens. It will not be the Hunger Games, right, where we're passing quality leads. And then another one that comes to mind is scoring leads based on social activity. So a lead may be extremely active on your social channels, but super inactive on your website. And this actually happened to me prior to being in marketing and moving over to the dark side of marketing. I was in sales. And I would actually lean on the social engagement data to get a better picture of this, because essentially, what is a salesperson's worst nightmare besides not hitting quota, right? It's when leads go dark, they disappear. So what ends up happening is if you are tracking and understanding every single social click, that's fantastic. Or sorry, every single webpage visit and every single email open, that's fantastic. But what happens when that lead or prospect stops engaging with that and is simply only engaging on social? It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not engaging with your brand. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not interested in buying. It means that they're interested in your product or service, and they're doing social research to engage deeper and more. So I think in that piece, right, when I was using social engagement data to help unstuck my deals, whether it was in the early stages of a sales cycle, which can be a huge challenge for many of us, right? Because we're passing leads over and then perhaps leads get stuck, but we know they're qualified. This is, again, like I said, I found it most helpful. And when you can then integrate, let's say, from your marketing automation platform, if you're using, let's say, Salesforce, and you can actually show the salesperson all of the social engagement data as well, this gives the salesperson a leg up to their competitors because they'll be able to see exactly what that leader prospect is engaging with on social media. Perhaps they'll be able to see, oh, this lead is engaging on Twitter. So I'm going to reach out to this lead on Twitter and follow up, or I'm going to start sparking a conversation on LinkedIn because I see that this is where this lead lives and breathes. And I think this is where really where you get social selling ramping up. And again, you see the bridge between sales and marketing being built only stronger. And again, the more you understand your buyer's actions across multiple channels, right, including social media, the faster you're going to be able to move that prospect from pre-qualified to an actual opportunity. And I think that that's huge. So I hope you found this session on lead scoring helpful. I have a ton of other examples I'm going to be linking. I have some great definitive guides that walk through exactly how to do this in marketing automation platforms, exactly what data to look at. So if you are interested, I will link it in the show notes, and you can always head on over to our website, www.oktopost.com, and you'll be able to find those definitive guides. And you're also welcome to email me, Jen at oktopost.com, and I would be happy to walk through, different lead scoring models, what we see successful, and even hear how you're lead scoring when it comes to social engagement data. So my main takeaway as we close the lights and turn off the mic, we can absolutely enrich our lead scoring with social engagement data, and this only betters a 360 view of our entire customer journey. Thanks for tuning in to the Radically Transparent podcast, brought to you by Oktopost, the only social media management and employee advocacy platform architected for B2B. I'm Jennifer Gutman, your host and director of social strategy here at Oktopost. And if you love today's show, we'd love if you subscribe, rate, and give a raving review wherever you get your podcasts. For more discussion on B2B social media marketing, be sure to follow Oktopost on LinkedIn. And of course, to gain access to all our free social media marketing and employee advocacy resources, head on over to our website, www.oktopost.com. Until next time.